United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry about that. Roll call. Yep, please roll call.
Mrs. Bennett, she wasn't going to Zoom this, was she? Just
Not Zooming this one.
okay. Is absent. Mrs. Eckert,
Here.
Mr. Franco,
Here.
Mrs. Goebel,
Here.
Dr. O'Shea,
Here.
Dr. Pavola is not Zooming this either. Mr. Burke is absent. Mr. Farr
Here.
and Mrs. Arnold.
Okay, public comment on agenda items which are the grade 3 through 8 science curriculum. Okay. Review the draft. I see that we have, says science curriculum. Okay. You want to take it, Mary Jean? Your copy is here. Oh.
I want to let first, if they're okay if I let Lisa Wells speak first?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Lisa Wells is our third grade teacher, and she was a big part in writing the curriculum for our third grade, along with other people, so we let her speak.
Thank you to everyone who made it possible for Karen to help us this year write our curriculum and add as third grade teachers to a lot of subjects. So her help with the background of the science and everything we've got so for the time that she did with the science class, we really enjoyed and really helped us a lot. We really appreciate it.
And who was that? I'm sorry, what was the name?
Karen Kulish.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so Karen is the science department chair.
Oh, okay.
She was supposed to be here tonight, but she's sick. So she's really apologized. She was actually going to present this, but she apologized. She's not feeling well at all. Just so you know, the high school is able to release Karen Kudish for 2 periods every day, where she met with every grade level teacher. So third grade day, she met with third grade, fourth, fifth. So that's really, she worked with them almost every what we call PLS, which is our professional learning session.
Awesome.
So she was really drove this, so.
And she went beyond what she brought materials for us, she didn't have some
Yeah.
found activities for us, she really did a lot for us.
Yeah.
That's great, wonderful.
She's amazing. And she's also on the agenda to retire tonight. So,
Karen?
So you're saying is that was
Oh.
caused by the 3rd to 8th grade teachers? What did you do to her? What you had it down there?
okay, I'm going to go through this. It is up there publicly. I'm not going to go through it in detail. If you want more information, we can certainly get it for you. But I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. This is just a slide showing who was actually involved in the curriculum writing. And you can see that that's really virtually every teacher we have at those grade levels teaching science. But obviously Karen was our driving force. This is just a suggested timeline by PDE, so you can see we're right on schedule. And in 22-23, review old curriculum. We did do that last year. Last year we talked about piloting some new materials, which we did do this year. And then this year we're supposed to review our standards, using materials, having professional development, which we did all of this year. We also had David Bowman from PDE. He is the science director at PDE. He came and talked and worked with our people. I think, was it 3 days? Yeah. So it was at least 2 to 3 full days. He came up from Harrisburg. So we're right on track, and we're hopefully, we will be fully implementing it next year. Next year, the science test will change. It will move from 4th grade to 5th grade, and it will all these new standards.
This was all prompted because the state changed the science standards. So because they adopted new science standards, it's really forcing every single school district in the state to adopt new curricular materials.
And it's a huge change. It's a big change in the way we teach and the way kids learn. It actually makes the kids be more scientists, and it makes them explore and ask questions rather than giving them the answers. We give phenomena, and they come up with thoughts, ideas, and processes. So it's really, I think, going to, the kids are way more engaged. I guess Elisa could probably tell you better than I can. She's been piloting our third grade with Amplify Science. The children more engaged.
Yes, definitely more engaged than just the textbook that we had before.
Okay, and again, this is just pre-standards and then the current standards. The old standards were really textbook driven. There was really no obvious connection between other subject areas. Now there's connected to math and English as well. And it's just really written for everybody. So it's much easier to understand. And again, here's existing state standards and then the new ones. This is our 2024 curriculum. We actually switched our curriculum in 2021. We moved towards NGSS. That was before PDE adopted. We knew it was happening. So we were kind of in the front of this. So we moved over to NGSS. So we're just now moving to Steele's. But again, our old standards, it was just like, tell us about this or describe that, which we call depth of knowledge 1, which means they're really just regurgitating information. Whereas with the new standards, they really have to understand and apply the different sciences. Okay, and again, you can see describe. This is just a way to learn how to read them, what each of the numbers mean when you're looking at the standards. This is our third grade example. So their unit, the big idea, this is their big idea, then the essential questions, and then we have performance expectations. What are the children asked to do? Okay, so it's not what the teacher's doing, so the children are planning and conducting investigation. It's not the teacher. They should be able to do that at the end. And then this is just evidence again. How do we know they know that? Well, we watch them carry out an experiment. We watch them identify a real world problem. So it's just much higher level for the children. And here also assessment boundary, that's new. That's where they kind of tell you, this is exactly what you want to assess them and how, rather than just making it wide open.
Can you just, 1 second, Regine? I can read really fast when I was actually reading something here.
I have a quick question also during that. So, two actually. One, do we find that this is more rigorous or just like a different kind of rigorous for kids?
I'm going to say this goes from essentially asking what is to why. You know, so instead of just giving an answer, it's going to be more why is that occurring?
Yeah.
So when we're incorporating more of the math and the English into that ELA, if a student is really, because I mean, I know in the past we could have a student who might be strong in like scientific concepts, like they pick up on that stuff, but they struggle in math or they struggle in ELA. Are they now also going to struggle in science or?
Well, anybody that struggles in reading is going to struggle
Right. But I
across
mean,
the
like,
curriculum.
aside from reading, like more
Towards the
towards
math.
the.
Well,
I-
there's a foundation for those kids so that,
Okay.
like I have some kids that struggle with their writing and their reading, so if it's something we're reading, they might read it with a partner, or I might just read it to them, or if they're taking a test and if they have to explain, they'll just explain it in words and I'll just write it, or the aides will write it, whoever's working with them.
Well, and a higher level of engagement, like you said, will
Yeah.
also help overcome some of those boundaries that may
Yeah, so
exist.
that, with the support you have, that doesn't, because they can explain it in words, just the writing is hard.
I think for those children that do struggle in math, by adding this together and they love science, it makes them think, oh, there is a reason, and this is why we do math, and this is why I need to know it. So they kind of then become more involved and more interested in it.
Yeah.
So I do think it kind of, those children that
It
aren't that
becomes more
interested.
concrete.
It is. They have to actually apply the math into something they're interested in.
And the kids that really are struggling or are supplemental ELA for us, they have been understanding the concepts and being able to tell them back to me and are participating in my class
Great.
in ways that I was kind of surprised at times, that they would put themselves out there. So, yeah. I think-
Okay, good, great. Glad to hear that.
So, I mean, you're looking at the curriculum, which is like the written, what the teachers and the training they've had to kind of change the way they teach and conduct the room has been huge. I mean, it's been a really, really heavy lift for them. So they've done a phenomenal job.
And we have a lot of buy-in from all the teachers as far as like to implement this type of a program, or?
Buy-in.
We've enjoyed it third grade. I can't talk
Okay.
about the grades, but third grade teachers, we have enjoyed the activities that we've done.
Great.
And you're
I mean,
lucky
any-
now. You know, I think there's some that are reluctant, and they will eventually, you know, those are just people we have to coach along and help them.
I mean, let's be honest, change is hard, right? Anytime we change something, it's hard. But it's we have to comply with what the state is asking us to do. And I think that when staff members start getting into and seeing that kids are more engaged, it's much more enjoyable to teach when kids are more engaged. There's no question. It's exciting for everyone, including the adults in the room.
So Mrs. Wells, what have you liked best about it, and what have you seen the kids struggle with differently?
Well, we did the Amplify, the first lesson, which was forces, the question, and we did, there's a lot of magnets in third grade. So third grade teachers love it because doing activities with magnets and playing with magnets and doing all sorts of stuff, and they had a great time. Then we did some stuff out of our book, and that for me was much more enjoyable. They did enjoy it much. We also did a couple of things from history science, were activities where they were being reviewed. They had a great time. I felt like they remembered the information better than when we just were reading it out of the book.
So is there a book, is this all, when you said then we did the book stuff, is it
Like this year we kind of had a
oh, you're talking about the book from the current year, the current
Yeah.
stuff.
And the one that we piloted has a workbook that they write in, and record their observations. So, but it's not like a textbook where there's all the information. So it's a little different in that respect. But the third grade teachers enjoyed it. And it was a little bit more work on our part in terms of when we did give a test. It didn't come with tests, but when we needed something, we had to come up with things. But, we kind of learned that as we went. But I think the third graders learned a lot about the ideas and really could explain them this year.
That was my other question was, what's the assessment, like, are there tests, or is it like,
Well, the Amplify that we piloted is a lot of writing, so they were supposed to at the end be able to write like this big explanation, which was a little above what they could do, but with support they got better at it. So we did come up with questions just to test their knowledge as a regular kind of a test. But we still had writing in with it as well. But we used the multiple choice kind of questions and then that writing as well. We're focusing on third graders don't write that well, so we beginning of the year, kind of, do they have the idea? Yes. Are their sentences making sense? Not quite, but, grading it on do they understand?
right, I actually just was wondering, like, what does the standard say that, does the standard do the standard in each grade have test requirements or something, or? I mean, personally, I hate testing, and I have a
Yeah.
kid who hated testing, so like, yay, if they don't have to do multiple choice tests out of a book, but I just, that's great if we have a process so that they can be successful. Eventually there is a keystone in the high school, right, so they have, that's all.
There's lots of ways you can assess kids in science. You
Yeah.
can assess them on a page where they took the observations down. You can assess that and they do it.
Yeah.
They make observations. So there's lots of different ways you can assess them. And I haven't taught higher grade science, but I would think as they got older, it'd be a lot easier to do that. Third graders, they're just learning how to write something
Yeah.
as well. So,
Yeah.
we're just teaching them how to learn in third grade.
Yeah.
So.
My biggest fear is that we have a kid that really just struggles with writing, hates writing. We've all met them, like, hates writing. Maybe that's something that they didn't have to deal with as much in science, so like science was their reprieve and their science grades were good. And now I just want to make sure that there's some avenue that these that kid isn't lost to like, now there's another subject that everything has to be an essay.
Well,
Okay.
I would have to say this is more hands-on and probably less of the book writing than previous. This is more engaging,
Okay.
more hands-on, more of the theory, more of trying to practice stuff out. And at the end, you may have to write why or how, as opposed to reading the book. You know, you're actually hands-on experimenting. So I think it's, I would say, at least, would you agree, like it's probably less writing. It might be, you might have to think more, you know, and think about it, but it's, and explore more, but it's less writing.
Okay.
And I think that's where differentiation comes into it, right? So we can never think of every student in a class of 25 students as the same, right? So we have 25 students. We have 25 people that all have different needs and are at different levels. And I think I think that teachers, especially elementary teachers, they're so good at it. They really are, meeting individual needs. And assessment goes on all day throughout every class, whether it's formal assessment, informal assessment, as simple as, hey, feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle if you don't, if you're not quite sure, or about like, hey, show me the answer on a whiteboard, and they're holding up answers on a whiteboard, or like just, there are so many things that are occurring naturally that assessment is ongoing. The curriculum itself doesn't dictate the type of assessment. It tells us the things that have to be assessed.
Got it.
Is the section on environmental justice new?
I think that is new, right?
What's that?
Environmental justice, right?
Yeah.
That's new. That's a new state standard.
That's from the state, huh?
Yes.
Everything that we wrote came from the state standards.
Sounds more like a cultural issue than a science issue.
I would refer you to Governor Shapiro on that one.
So much for that.
I do think, though, it's important, especially for science, like, you know, scientifically, if you're in that field, like, we learn so much from our mistakes, so you have to celebrate the mistakes, like, well, that didn't work, and that's how you learn it, and so, I couldn't tell, I mean, I think if it's one of those where you're, like, assessing that the kids are, like, getting it, and getting the thought process is wonderful.
And I'll tell you what I like about this document is that it wasn't written by Paul Doherty. It wasn't written by Mary Jean Egan. It's written by people that are in the classrooms every day. And that's complying with the new state standards. That, to me, also goes a long way to create buy-in when it's teacher-created documents.
Okay, so this is just a little bit more that's in there. The next step, our teachers have piloted 2 science resources during this school year. K through 5 only did Amplify Science because there's nothing else available. And then 6 through 8 did Amplify Science and Open Sci. The problem that we have is that we won't do anything that is not, you know, fully research-based and has a green light. And there's very few products out there that really have, by research, have a green light. So these are the 2 that we chose. Nothing is happening right now. If this curriculum is adopted by the board on May 2nd, then I would meet with the teachers. We would have to do what's called an RFP, a request for proposal, because the amount. They'll come in, and then I will find out a recommendation from the science committee of teachers. We'll bring that before this board, and then we will continue to train. So that's kind of our next steps.
Right, we're not asking the board for any action this evening. This was just the first step. We're going to ask the board to approve this on 5-2, and assuming that does happen, then we'll take it to the next level of evaluating what materials we're going to utilize to implement this.
Is this curriculum recommended by the state or required by the state?
We have to comply with state standards. I mean, we're mandated to teach state standards. Like, they give us the standards, we write the curriculum.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question or no?
So
Yeah.
to that end, when there is a subject that is considered controversial, we do have some flexibility as far as like the tone we take with that.
Very much so.
Right.
I mean, if it- look what's here, it looks like it's teaching a specific cultural interpretation.
We have had, I mean, a parent can opt a child out, and that's another thing, like, they say, I don't want them to be here, we will give them something else. We've had that. Or something.
So did the standard change? I'm looking at the standard didn't change though about like biology being a required keystone or anything like, or you said 5th grade is now the new PSSA time year?
They'll change a little bit towards this. Yeah, so our 9 through 12, are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're already working on it as well. They're just not ready. They're not there yet.
There are massive changes coming to the state
That's-
testing. It was announced earlier today by PDE and Governor Shapiro's office. Like, they're revamping all of PSSAs and Keystone testing. I don't know what that'll look like. Supposedly, it is much more, first of all, it's all online. There will be no paper and pencil testing, and it's not going to be multiple choice based. It's going to be like click and drag. It's going to be, it's supposed to be much more engaging for students, and it's supposed to take a lot less time throughout the winter, all subjects. Literally, it was announced, 5-6 hours ago.
Okay.
So this is not on the board agenda for tonight.
Yep.
This will be for the next meeting, to have this approved by the board. And then we can, if it's approved, we can move forward with the textbook.
Sure.
Okay.
So the standards that are, the state standards, are they going out on the website? So like people can see that the state standard, that's what this one is, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the state document right there.
Right, so is it out there? Is it on our website?
I don't know
Or
the
can
answer.
we put it on our website?
Probably not until we had this meeting.
Yeah, I can,
Yeah.
I can certainly put it up if you want us to.
Yeah, make sure it's on the website and that the description is clear that these are the required state standards, not like
Yeah, I can-
the Tunkhannock wants to put this out there to.
What we could put is the Pennsylvania Steel Standards and then put Tunkhannock's curriculum.
Yeah, I would just make sure that the required part is there
Yeah.
somewhere so that it's, it
Not a
seems,
problem.
it doesn't appear that this is being driven internally from Tunkhannock.
Okay, understood.
Yep, do that.
For Phil Farr is a specific question. We should put it out there. And make sure people realize that it's the state standard. Thank you very much, Mrs. Wells, for coming and giving us your input. Oh yeah, do we need a motion to adjourn? Anything else?
We'll be fine.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, you don't, are you on the committee?
No.
You can't make a motion to adjourn. I can second.